Min-jae Park had killed men for less than wasting his time. So when his grandmother insisted on one more blind date, he agreed, only because saying no to her was the one battle he'd never win. But the woman who walked into his private dining room wearing confidence like armor and a smile that didn't ask for permission made him forget why he'd ever wanted to say no in the first place. Before we dive in, please subscribe by telling me where you are watching from. Now let's begin. The restaurant was too expensive for anyone to make noise in. Min-jae could hear everything from his corner table. The whisper of Hermes napkins unfolding, the careful clink of crystal wine glasses, the hushed reverence wealthy people paid to $1,000 meals. And then there was the sound that had been keeping him awake for 3 nights straight. Soft vibrations, one after another. Then silence. Then again. He didn't need to look across the table to know where it came from. Teresa Wade's phone, face down beside her untouched dessert. She sat directly in his line of sight, the woman who'd somehow infiltrated every hour of his day since that first blind date a week ago. Every business decision now carried her laugh in the background. Every Mafia meeting was interrupted by thoughts of her burgundy dress sliding off her shoulders. Every carefully constructed wall he'd spent 32 years building was cracking under the weight of her existence. He relied on control more than he admitted, even to himself. But lately, Teresa was also the source of something he was not used to handling. A constant ache. Again, he thought, watching as her hand moved to silence the vibration without looking at the screen. She was careful. Too careful. Her body language shifted, shoulders tensing, jaw tightening, that brilliant smile dimming just long enough for him to notice. She was hiding something. He hated how his chest constricted at that. It was none of his business. She could talk to whoever she wanted. She could text whoever she wanted. She wasn't his property. Not yet. Another vibration. Her phone lit up at the edges. He caught a glimpse, a name, a photo, a heart emoji. Her fingers moved fast to flip it back over, but not fast enough. Chris. His jaw flexed. The temperature in the room hadn't changed, but his blood turned to ice and fire simultaneously, a sensation he only felt before someone died. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice silk over steel. Teresa looked up, and for the first time since he'd known her, she lied directly to his face. "Everything's perfect." That was the moment Min-jae Park decided he would find out exactly who Christopher Laurent was, and why a decorated war hero thought he had any right to steal the attention of a woman who was supposed to be his. Min-jae stared at the ceiling of his penthouse, replaying their last kiss for the 100th time. 3 dates in 7 days. Each one had peeled back another layer of Teresa's carefully constructed walls, revealing glimpses of vulnerability that made his chest ache in ways no business deal ever had. He'd kissed her goodnight outside her apartment building, forcing himself to walk away when every instinct screamed to follow her inside. "You're losing your mind," he muttered to himself, checking his watch. She'd be here in 20 minutes for dinner, homemade, because she'd mentioned loving Italian food, and he'd spent the afternoon learning to make carbonara from his bewildered chef. When Teresa arrived, she was luminous in a simple sundress, her hair catching the evening light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. They ate on his terrace overlooking the city, conversation flowing like wine. She told him about her nursing shift, the difficult patient who'd finally smiled. He found himself talking about his mother, memories he usually kept locked away. "Bathroom?" she asked after dessert. "Down the hall, second door." He watched her go, that familiar ache returning. Then her phone buzzed on the table. "Don't look." The thought was clear, rational. but his hand moved anyway, tilting the screen. Chris. Baby, I need you tonight. Can't do this alone. Please. The world tilted. Min-jae's jaw clenched as he opened the message thread. Just to understand, he told himself, just to know what he was dealing with. Photos loaded, a man in military uniform, strong jawline, easy smile. Arms around Teresa. That same smile she'd given Min-jae an hour ago. His vision tunneled. Every kiss, every whispered confidence, every moment he'd let himself believe she was different, all of it contaminated by this. Chris with a heart emoji. Baby. Tonight. Everything okay? Teresa's voice made him drop the phone. She stood in the doorway, concern softening her features. Min-jae forced his expression neutral, but his hands betrayed him, trembling with barely contained rage. Who's Christopher? Her face went pale. What? Your phone. The words came out cold, surgical. He needs you tonight. Can't do it alone. Should I assume you have somewhere else to be? The trust in her eyes shattered into something that looked like betrayal. You read my messages? Answer the question. Min-jae didn't sleep. He sat in his office until dawn. Christopher Laurent's life spread across 3 monitors like a dissection. Everything you asked for, Jae-sung said, dropping a thick folder on the mahogany desk. His second-in-command looked exhausted, but Min-jae felt nothing except the cold burn of betrayal. Marine Corps, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Purple Heart for taking shrapnel while pulling 3 men from a burning vehicle. Honorable discharge 8 months ago. Min-jae studied the military portrait. Christopher Laurent looked every inch the hero. Square-jawed, clear-eyed, the kind of man mothers trusted and daughters married. Everything Min-jae wasn't. Everything he could never be, no matter how many billions he accumulated or how many enemies he buried. The meetings? His voice was flat. Jae-sung pulled up security footage on the center screen. 7 times in the past month. Always late evening. This is from 3 nights ago. Min-jae watched Teresa emerge from her car outside a modest townhouse in Silver Spring. Christopher opened the door before she knocked, pulling her into an embrace that lasted too long. Her hand came up to cup his face. Intimate. Familiar. They disappeared inside. She didn't leave until past midnight. More. The word scraped out. Footage cycled. Christopher meeting her after hospital shifts. Teresa bringing groceries to his door. A coffee shop where they sat close, her hand covering his across the table. In every frame, she wore the same expression she'd given Min-jae on their dates. Soft, caring, present. He has PTSD, Jae-sung continued, reading from his notes. Gets VA benefits. No criminal record. Works part-time at a veterans center. Finances are clean. No debt, modest savings. Lives alone. Lives alone. But Teresa was there constantly, nurturing him through whatever demons haunted him. The hero and his angel. Min-jae's hands curled into fists. Of course she'd choose Christopher. The man had saved lives while Min-jae had ended them. Christopher bled for his country, while Min-jae bled his enemies for profit. What was a penthouse and a fortune compared to genuine honor? Options, he said quietly. Jae-sung's expression didn't change. Legal or practical? Both. Legal, restraining order if we manufacture cause. Discredit him professionally. Immigration pressure if we find anything questionable in his background. Jae-sung paused. Practical. Disappear him. Make it look like a relapse. Veteran suicide wouldn't raise questions. The suggestion should have repulsed him. Instead, Min-jae felt only the seductive pull of elimination. Remove the obstacle. Reclaim what was his. But Teresa's face surfaced in his mind, the horror in her eyes when she'd realized he'd violated her privacy. What would she look like if Christopher vanished? If she learned Min-jae was responsible? "Keep watching them," he ordered. "I want every meeting documented, every text, every call, every touch." And then? Min-jae stared at Christopher's service photo. "Then I decide if heroes bleed like everyone else." Teresa's phone lit up for the third time during her lunch break. All Min-jae. "Min-jae, dinner tonight, 7 p.m. I'll send Marcus to pick you up from the hospital. Min-jae, wear the blue dress I sent. We have reservations. Min-jae. Teresa?" She stared at the messages, unease coiling in her stomach. 5 days since their explosive confrontation about her phone. 5 days of his cold politeness masking something darker. She still hadn't fully explained Christopher. Min-jae's violation had made her defensive, protective. Now he was everywhere, his presence wrapping around her life like silk turning to rope. "You okay?" Rachel, her fellow nurse, glanced over. "You look stressed." "It's nothing." Teresa typed back, "I have plans tonight. Maybe tomorrow?" The response came within seconds. "Cancel them." Her jaw tightened. Not a question. A command. "I can't. It's important." More important than us? Teresa's hands trembled. This tone, this pressure, she'd lived this before. Derek had started the same way. Sweet requests becoming expectations, becoming demands. Gifts that felt like chains. The slow erosion of her autonomy disguised as devotion. Her phone rang. Min-jae. "I'm at work," she answered, keeping her voice professional. "Cancel your plans." His voice was velvet over steel. "Whatever it is, it can wait." "Min-jae, I can't just... I sent a car this morning to take you to work. I sent lunch to your floor. I'm asking for one evening, Teresa. Is that unreasonable?" The gaslighting was surgical. Make the request sound small while ignoring the pattern. She'd watched him track her movements, monopolize her time, interrogate her about every obligation. Last night he'd shown up at her apartment unannounced with dinner, staying until past midnight despite her hints about exhaustion. "You didn't ask?" she said carefully. "You told me to cancel." Silence stretched. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped to something dangerous. "Who are you seeing tonight?" "That's not... Christopher?" The name cracked like a whip. "Is that why you're pushing back? Because your war hero needs you?" Teresa's heart hammered. "Stop. We're not doing this. We're doing exactly this." His control was fracturing, revealing the obsession beneath. "Every night this week, you've had somewhere to be. Someone to see. I'm trying to build something with you, and you're suffocating," she cut in, surprising herself. "You're suffocating me, Min-jae. The car, the gifts, showing up without asking, demanding to know where I am every second. I want to spend time with you." "Is that a crime?" "It is when you act like you own me." The words hung between them, dangerous and true. She heard his breathing, harsh and uneven. "I don't own you," he said finally, each word measured. "But I won't share you either. Decide what you want, Teresa. Him or me. You can't have both." The line went dead. Teresa sat frozen, her untouched salad wilting on the break room table. Rachel was staring at her with concern, but all Teresa could feel was the familiar trap closing. the intoxicating pull of Min-jae's intensity warring with every instinct screaming to run. Her phone buzzed again. Not a message, a notification. A dozen roses had been delivered to the nurse's station. The card read, "Forgive me. Tonight, 7 p.m. Please." The restaurant was all low lighting and hushed conversations, the kind of place where wealth whispered instead of shouted. Min-jae had chosen it deliberately. Intimate, exclusive, a stage for reconciliation. Teresa sat across from him in the blue dress, looking ethereal and distant, pushing risotto around her plate. "You're not eating," he observed, trying to gentle his tone. Trying to be the man she'd laughed with on their first date, before jealousy had turned him into something darker. "I'm just tired," she offered a wan smile. "Long shift." He reached across the table, covering her hand. "I'm sorry about earlier. Her phone vibrated against the white tablecloth. She glanced down, and her face transformed, color draining, eyes widening with something that looked like fear. "I need to take this." She was already standing, the phone pressed to her ear as she hurried toward the exit. "Chris, what's wrong?" Min-jae sat motionless, watching her through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She stood on the sidewalk, one arm wrapped around herself, head bowed. Even from here, he could see her shoulders shaking. Her free hand came up to her mouth, then her forehead, the gestures of someone receiving devastating news. She was crying. The possessive rage that lived in his chest roared to life. Christopher had called, and she'd abandoned their dinner, their reconciliation, everything, for him. The war hero who made her cry, who pulled her away whenever he snapped his fingers. What hold did this man have over her? But underneath the jealousy, something else flickered. Concern. The way she'd paled, the fear in her voice. This wasn't a romantic call. This was... No. He crushed the thought. He'd seen the footage. The embraces, the late-night visits, the intimacy. She was choosing Christopher again and again, and Min-jae was tired of being the second choice. Teresa turned back toward the restaurant, wiping her eyes. Their gazes met through the glass. She looked broken in a way that had nothing to do with romance, and everything to do with genuine anguish. Min-jae stood as she returned to the table. "We need to talk," he said, voice harder than intended. "About the other man in your life. No more excuses, Teresa. I want the truth about Christopher Laurent." The Metropolitan Museum glittered with Washington's elite. Crystal chandeliers reflected off champagne flutes and diamond necklaces, a symphony of wealth and power. Min-jae kept Teresa close, his hand possessive at the small of her back, as he navigated conversations with senators and CEOs. She wore emerald silk he'd sent that morning, another gift she hadn't asked for but couldn't refuse without starting a war. "Smile," he murmured against her ear. "You look like you're at a funeral." She felt like it. 3 days since the restaurant, since she'd deflected his interrogation about Christopher with half-truths and exhaustion. He'd let it go then, but the tension had been building, a storm gathering strength. Her clutch vibrated. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. Min-jae's grip tightened. "Don't." But she was already pulling out her phone, angling away from him. The messages lit up her screen. "Chris. Bad night, really bad. Chris. Can you come, please? Chris. I'm sorry, I know it's late. I just need to hear your voice." "Put it away." Min-jae's voice was granite. "I need to call him back." "No." He caught her wrist, gentle but immovable. "You need to stay here. With me. Like you promised." Teresa looked up at him, seeing the jealous fury barely leashed beneath his tailored exterior. Min-jae, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. He steered her through a doorway, away from the crowd, into a private gallery lined with Renaissance portraits. The door clicked shut, muffling the party to a distant hum. Your phone lights up with messages from another man. The heart emoji, Teresa. Baby, I need you. What exactly don't I understand? It's not what you think. Then explain it. He advanced on her, backing her against a marble column. Because from where I'm standing, you're playing me while running back to your hero every time he calls. Do you know what I could do to him? What I want to do? Fear flashed through her. Are you threatening him? I'm telling you the truth. His hand came up to cup her jaw, thumb brushing her lips. I'm not a good man, Teresa. I've done things that would make you run screaming. But I've never lied to you. Can you say the same? You violated my privacy, she shot back, shoving at his chest. You read my messages, you track my movements, you demand every second of my time. That's not honesty, Min-jae. That's control. And I've been controlled before. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. I'm nothing like your ex. Aren't you? Her voice broke. The gifts I didn't ask for? The cars, the flowers, the dresses, showing up unannounced, demanding I cancel plans? You're wrapping chains around me and calling it devotion. Because you won't let me in. The words exploded from him. You keep him in your life, in your phone, in your heart, and I'm supposed to just accept it? Watch you run to him whenever he needs you? He's not, what? Not your lover? Then what is he? Min-jae's hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. Tell me the truth. All of it, or I swear to God, Teresa, I will make him disappear. The threat hung between them, real and terrifying. She saw it in his eyes, the capability, the willingness. This was the man beneath the billionaire facade. The killer she'd glimpsed from the beginning. Christopher is my brother, she whispered. Min-jae went absolutely still. My half-brother, she continued, words tumbling out. Same father, different mothers. He came back from Afghanistan 8 months ago with PTSD and a Purple Heart, and demons that wake him up screaming. The late-night calls, he's having panic attacks. The embraces, I'm keeping him from falling apart. The heart emoji, because he's my baby brother and I love him, and I'm terrified every single day that I'm going to lose him. The silence stretched, broken only by her ragged breathing. You thought, she laughed bitterly. You actually thought I was cheating on you. So instead of asking, you investigated him, followed me, planned to, what, kill him? Min-jae's hands dropped. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain, lost. I didn't know, he said hoarsely, because you didn't ask. You demanded, accused, controlled. But you never just asked. Teresa, no. She pushed past him, heading for the door. I can't do this. Us. Whatever this is. You're too intense, too possessive, too... He caught her arm, spinning her back. Don't. Let me go. I can't. The admission was raw, desperate. I tried. God, I tried to stay away from you. But you're in my head, under my skin. I see your face when I close my eyes. I hear your voice in empty rooms. You've ruined me for anyone else. That's not love, she whispered. That's obsession. With you? It's the same thing. Then his mouth was on hers, fierce and claiming. She should have pushed him away, should have run. But her body betrayed her, melting into him, hands fisting in his jacket as she kissed him back with equal desperation. It was angry and raw, 6 weeks of tension and jealousy and want combusting between them. When they broke apart, both breathing hard. Teresa saw her own desire reflected in his eyes, the terrifying ease with which she lost herself in him. "I need to go," she managed. "Stay." "I can't." She pulled free, smoothing her dress with shaking hands. "Christopher needs me, and I need space, to think, to figure out if this is something I can survive." She walked away, leaving Min-jae alone among the painted faces of the dead. But even as she pushed through the gala crowd toward the exit, she could feel his eyes on her. And God help her, part of her wanted to turn back. Teresa noticed the black SUV on Monday morning. Same vehicle, Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday, she'd memorized the license plate and the faces of the two men who rotated shifts outside her apartment building. "Security upgrade," her building manager explained when she asked. "New investor insisted on it. Free of charge for all residents." Her blood ran cold. What investor? But she already knew. The flowers arrived Thursday. White lilies with a card that read, "Keeping you safe. M." She threw them in the trash and called him, fury overriding caution. "Remove your men from my building." Min-jae's voice was maddeningly calm. "It's a dangerous neighborhood, Teresa. I'm protecting you. You're stalking me. I'm ensuring your safety. There's a difference." "No, there isn't." She paced her small living room, aware his cameras probably tracked her shadow through the windows. "This is exactly what I told you I couldn't handle. The control, the surveillance. I can't lose you." The raw admission stopped her mid-stride. "After the gala, when you walked away, I couldn't breathe. Do you understand? You're not just another woman to me. You're everything." "That's not romantic, Min-jae. It's suffocating." "Then tell me what you need. I'll do anything." Teresa closed her eyes, torn between the intoxicating pull of his obsession and the survival instinct screaming at her to run. Space. Real space. No cars following me. No men watching my apartment. No tracking my phone or showing up unannounced. If you can't give me that, we're done. The silence stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. "Okay," he said finally. "You'll have your space." "You mean it?" "I'll pull the security. No more surveillance. You have my word." The relief that flooded through her felt premature, tainted by suspicion. "Just like that?" "Just like that." His voice softened. "I scared you. I see that now. The last thing I want is to lose you because I couldn't control my..." He paused. "Because I love you too much." Love. The word hung between them, terrifying and seductive. "I need time," she whispered, "to figure out if this is something I can do." "Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." After they hung up, Teresa felt the first stirrings of hope. Maybe he could change. Maybe they could find a balance. She didn't see Min-jae end the call and immediately dialed Jae-sung. "The brother," Min-jae said, voice stripped of the gentleness he'd used with Teresa. "Christopher Laurent. I want options by morning. Permanent ones." "You're sure about this?" Min-jae stared at Teresa's building through his office window. "She'll never be fully mine while he exists. Remove the obstacle, and she'll have no reason to pull away." He paused. "Make it look natural. An accident, a relapse, I don't care. Just make it clean." "Understood." Min-jae disconnected, convincing himself this was love. Protection. Devotion. Not the desperate act of a man who'd rather destroy what threatened him than risk losing control. Min-jae's phone buzzed with a security alert. Disturbance in parking garage. Male subject demanding access to executive floors, asking for Teresa Morgan. He was moving before conscious thought, taking the private elevator down, adrenaline sharpening every sense. This was it. Christopher had finally made his move, come to claim what Min-jae refused to surrender. The garage was concrete and shadows, the fluorescent lights casting everything in sickly yellow. Christopher Laurent stood near the entrance, still in his veteran center uniform, wild-eyed and disheveled. Two security guards flanked him, hands on their weapons. "Stand down," Min-jae ordered. His men stepped back immediately. Christopher's gaze locked on him with startling intensity. "You're him, the billionaire she won't talk about. And you're the man who won't leave her alone." Min-jae moved closer. Predatory. Every instinct screamed to eliminate this threat, remove him from Teresa's life permanently. She asked for space. "That includes you." "I need my sister." Christopher's voice cracked on the word. Min-jae stopped. "What?" "Teresa, my sister." Christopher laughed bitterly, the sound unhinged. "She didn't tell you, did she? Of course she didn't. She's been protecting me from your world because she thinks a fucked-up vet with a purple heart and suicidal thoughts doesn't belong near corporate killers." The words hit like physical blows. Sister. The embraces, the late-night calls, the desperate need, all of it reframing in an instant. "I don't believe you." January 15th, 2019. Christopher swayed on his feet. "That's when our parents died. Car accident on I-95. Mom and Dad gone in seconds. I was driving." His hands shook violently. "I walked away without a scratch while they bled out. Then I went to Afghanistan thinking maybe I could die doing something that mattered. But I survived that too. I survive everything except living." Min-jae saw it then. The identical slope of their noses, the same storm-gray eyes Teresa had. The family resemblance he'd been too blind with jealousy to notice. "Tonight I couldn't..." Christopher's voice broke completely. The walls were closing in, and the gunfire in my head wouldn't stop, and I just needed her voice. But her phone went straight to voicemail, and I thought... Tears streamed down his face. I thought maybe this time she'd finally given up on me. "Christopher!" Teresa's voice echoed through the garage. She ran toward them, still in her nurse's scrubs, panic etched across her features. She reached Christopher first, catching him as his knees buckled. "I've got you," she murmured, holding her brother while he sobbed into her shoulder. "I'm here. You're safe." Her eyes met Min-jae's over Christopher's shaking form. The devastation in her gaze cut deeper than any accusation. "This is what I was protecting," she said quietly. "Not a love affair, not another man. My baby brother who came home from war, broken, who calls me at 3 a.m. because he's standing on his balcony wondering if jumping would finally make the pain stop." Min-jae felt the ground shift beneath him. Every jealous assumption, every possessive rage, every plan to eliminate this supposed rival, all of it grotesque in the harsh fluorescent light. "Teresa, you investigated him." Her voice was hollow. "Followed me. Threatened him. All because you couldn't trust me enough to just ask." Christopher pulled back, wiping his face. "You're the one she's been so scared to lose. The one she thinks will run when he sees how damaged her family is. I would never, wouldn't you?" Teresa stood, still supporting her brother. "You were ready to destroy him, Min-jae. I see it in your face. What were you planning? An accident? Make the inconvenient veteran disappear?" The accuracy of her words made him flinch. "That's what I thought." She turned away, guiding Christopher toward her car. "I need to get him home. We're done here." "Please." The word came out broken. "Let me help." You've done enough." Min-jae watched them leave, the woman he loved and the brother he'd almost destroyed, and finally understood the true cost of his obsession. The city lights blurred through the penthouse windows as Teresa sank onto the leather sofa, her walls finally crumbling. Min-jae poured her water with steady hands, then sat close enough to catch her if she fell apart completely. "My parents died when I was 19, she began, her voice fracturing. "Car accident. One second they were there, the next, gone. Christopher was 17. He enlisted 2 years later, said he needed purpose, needed to feel strong again." Her fingers twisted together. "He came back broken. PTSD so bad he can't hold a job, can't sleep, can't function. And I survived perfectly fine. No nightmares, no panic attacks, nothing. While my baby brother fell apart, I just kept going." Min-jae's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent, letting her continue. "Every man I've ever dated sees him as a problem to solve or a burden to carry. They say they understand, but then they're checking their watches during family dinners, suggesting I need boundaries, telling me I can't save him." Her voice broke completely. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I am the burden. Me and my broken family that I can't fix no matter how hard I try." The jealousy that had burned through Min-jae's chest earlier transformed into something sharper, clearer, shame at his own ugliness, and a fierce need to prove her wrong. He'd spent his whole life being the danger people ran from, the predator in expensive suits who destroyed anyone who crossed him. But looking at Teresa's devastation, he finally understood what all that ruthlessness was actually for. "You're not a burden," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "He's not a burden. I spent my whole life being too dangerous to love. But if you'll let me, I'll use that danger to protect what matters to you." He pulled out his phone before she could protest, scrolling through contacts that represented decades of carefully cultivated power. "Dr. Mitchell owes me 3 favors. His trauma facility has a 6-month wait list, but he'll make room tonight." He dialed without hesitation. "Christopher gets the best care available, and you get to stop carrying this alone." Teresa stared at him, tears streaming down her face, as Min-jae's dangerous connections became her brother's lifeline. The first week nearly broke them both. Teresa spent every visiting hour at Dr. Mitchell's facility, watching Christopher shake through withdrawals from the medications he'd been self-medicating with, watching him rage and weep and retreat into silence. Min-jae showed up every single day, not hovering, not demanding gratitude, just present. He sat in waiting rooms, brought coffee Teresa forgot to drink, and when Christopher finally stabilized enough for visitors beyond immediate family, Min-jae walked into that room and extended his hand. "I'm Min-jae," he said simply. "I'm the reason you're here, and I'm not going anywhere." Christopher's grip was weak, but steady. "Teresa talks about you constantly, says you're terrifying." "I am." Min-jae's smile held no apology. "But only to people who threaten what I care about." 2 weeks later, Teresa brought Min-jae to Sunday dinner at Christopher's halfway house. Her brother was clearer-eyed, steadier, asking questions about Min-jae's business with genuine curiosity rather than defensive suspicion. When Christopher excused himself to help another resident, Teresa reached for Min-jae's hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing him as a person, not a project." Min-jae's throat tightened. "He's your family. That makes him mine." The vulnerability came slowly, carefully. Late nights in Min-jae's penthouse, when he rolled up his sleeves and let Teresa trace the scars on his forearms. Reminders of a childhood where survival meant learning to fight dirty and fast. Quiet confessions about the emptiness that used to live in his chest. how he'd filled it with power and control because nothing else made him feel real. Teresa listened without flinching, her acceptance more devastating than any rejection. "You're not empty anymore," she said softly, her fingers gentle against old wounds. "You're just learning what it feels like to be full." 3 months passed like breathing, difficult at first, then natural. Christopher's progress was miraculous. The facility's structure and Min-jae's refusal to let him fail created momentum Teresa had stopped believing possible. And then one evening, Min-jae's phone rang while they were cooking dinner together. Teresa answered, putting it on speaker. Christopher's voice came through clear and bright. "Guess who just got approved for outpatient status? And guess who told the worst dad joke in group therapy today and actually made people laugh?" Teresa's face transformed, joy flooding every feature as Christopher launched into an absurd story about therapy llamas and trust exercises. Min-jae leaned against the counter, watching her laugh with her whole body, watching years of grief and guilt finally release their grip. She hadn't changed his life, he realized. She'd saved it. Pulled him from the cold emptiness of a world where power meant isolation, where strength meant never needing anyone. Christopher's laughter echoed through the kitchen. And Min-jae understood with perfect clarity. This messy, complicated, beautiful thing they were building wasn't about rescuing or fixing. It was about choosing each other, broken pieces and all, and trusting that together they were strong enough to heal. If you loved Min-jae and Teresa's journey from darkness to redemption, like and subscribe for more stories where love heals the broken and transforms the dangerous into protectors.